Hey everyone, it has just started raining. I think we're due for a thunderstorm, and that is perfect timing for me because I'm about to jump into a July Noir reading vlog. This is a readathon hosted by Bree from Locked Booktition. It's an extension of her Blackoween readathon, and this year it's actually year long, and there's no time like the present to join in on that, so I'll be sure to have all of her information linked below. I'm hoping to participate as much as possible in the weekend events, specifically hanging out in Laissez-Faire streetcar. There are 6 different prompts, and we're just gonna have to see how many I actually check off. The book I'm starting off the weekend with is P. Djeli Clark's The Haunting of Tramcar 15. I just added this to my collection a couple weeks ago when a friend of mine was having a wedding, and I decided to make a fun trip of the travel. I ended up stopping at a few local bookstores along the way to the wedding venue, and this is one of the books I picked up along the way. It's gonna be short, which is perfect for a weekend event, and I'm excited because the last time I read a book by P. Djeli Clark was during July Noir last year. I read The Dead Cattail Assassins, ended up being one of my top books of last year. I loved it so much, and I'm really excited to try another book by Clark. So let's dive in. We'll see if I can update you halfway through, and I'm honestly so sure I'm gonna love it that it's gonna be a shock if I don't. Happy July Noir, everybody. It's true, I will be reading some great books by Black authors this weekend. However, I don't do anything else. I'm a very boring person, and so I thought what I could do is repurpose some old footage. I ended up visiting a friend a few weeks ago. I attended her wedding. It was beautiful, and while I made my way, I decided to do an impromptu bookshop crawl, and the first stop happened to be Midtown Scholar. This is based in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful space. It's huge, multiple floors. They also have secondhand books in carts outside. I was so impressed, and I always try to stop at this bookstore whenever I'm in the Harrisburg area. They have genres for all types of readers, and I definitely enjoyed saying hello to a few of my own favorite reads. You can see Chuck Tingle's Lucky Day on the table, How to Survive Camping, and I also happened to find some books that I do want to add to my own shelves. One of them happens to be The Redemption Center is Closed on Sundays. In fact, this could have been a perfect book to read this weekend, but I just didn't get to it. Sublimation, The Keeper, both of those are on my currently reading stack. Dead Weight is so good, highly recommended. And look at that creepy teddy bear. Keep an eye on that one because that is going to be on my TBR as well. And then I rounded out my purchases with Heather. Seems to be a historical suspense. I'm really excited about it. And there I am, happy bookshopper. I am 3 chapters into this book and I'm already hooked. I'm so excited to get into this haunting and to learn more about the world, learn more about the ministry of alchemy, enchantments, and supernatural entities. We are following 2 agents who are a part of this ministry. One of them is a veteran. He has been a part of the agency for quite some time. He knows his way around hauntings, and his name is Agent Hamed Nasser. He has recently been partnered with a rookie, and he's not the happiest camper, but we have to make do. That is Agent Ansi Youssef, who is so excited, bright-eyed, like filled with knowledge and history, which can be annoying at times, but I mean, not to me. Hamed is annoyed by him, but I find him to be really charming, and I think their dynamic of a grumpy sunshine duo is going to work out really well as they're investigating this tram car. So the ministry has been requested to look into this strange happening. They don't really know if the tram car is haunted or not, and by the end of chapter 1 it is confirmed there is a djinn, but it's an unknown djinn. They don't know what type, which makes it a bit trickier in how to remove it from the tram car, and that has forced these 2 characters to get a bit creative. They've reached out to a sheikah. This alternate history is dealing with fantastical elements, but also ones that are steeped in religion, in spirituality, the discussion of jinn, folklore, sheikah, and also we have quite a bit of advanced technology. So not only do we have airships, thanks to the djinn, we also have tram cars as a very popular choice of transportation. We also have what is called boilerplate eunuchs. They are robots that are deemed non-sentient, but there are some in their ranks that have reached that level, and that is blowing my mind. I knew that we were going to be dealing with fantastical elements, at the very least supernatural elements, because we have a haunting, but I didn't realize that we would have a change in technological advancement as well. And what I love, even though this is a novella, we have an explanation as to how this came to be. And so I really appreciate that Clark didn't gyp us on why are there jinn everywhere and why has Cairo suddenly become extremely advanced due to that, when in 1912 we didn't have any of this stuff, and we don't have any of it in 2026. Okay, I was flipping through to find the explanation. It's at the beginning of chapter 2. We have the reference of Al-Jahiz, and he is the man that we have to thank for a jinn running amok. It had been some 40 years since the wandering Sudanese genius, or madman, take your pick, had, through a mix of alchemy and machines, bored a hole into the calf. The opening of the doorway to the other realm of the jinn had sent magic pouring out, changing the world forever. And it's thanks to these jinn being en masse in this world, they were able to work together with the Cairenes, with the people of Cairo, to push back against the English, pushing them out of their borders. And now Cairo is kind of rivaling large urban places like London and Paris, really putting Egypt on the map, even though it didn't need help. It's just that it's become a grand power in 1912 thanks to their alliance with the jinn. And that complicates things because it seems as though the people are in two camps. They appreciate what the jinn provided them, but they also dream of a simpler time before the jinn because they've complicated society. And I'm just really excited that in 3 chapters, all of that has already happened. We've seen some scary jinn. We've also seen some jinn who are just walking around, who are completely immersed in society and a part of society. We have these agents, we have these women, suffragettes, who are fighting for their right to vote as well, because there is a big proceeding that is coming, and the women of Cairo, of Egypt in general, are hoping to finally have their voices heard. And now this Sheikah has been brought into the mix to help with this haunting. I know that we're probably going to get some ups and downs. It's not going to be an easy process, and there's probably going to be a reveal or two along the way, specifically what this jinn is and why they're haunting this particular tram. But I'm excited. So the hope is to possibly finish it tonight. If not, I'll probably finish it tomorrow, either before work or after work, because I do have a library shift this weekend. So I'll be having you guys join me for that too. This is the only time in the vlog where you actually get to see what I got up to this weekend. All other footage is dedicated to my bookshop perusing, but I have recently picked up a new hobby, needle punching. This is a kit, so it's definitely a beginner's guide to the art form, but when I picked up crocheting in the last year, I realized I really enjoy working with fiber arts, working with my hands in general, and this has been such a fun, calming process. And since I've got the hang of it, I've actually been able to listen to audiobooks while working on this project, and I'm pretty proud of the progress I've made thus far. You can see that moss green yarn. I've been using it to finish off the leaves. And my last task is actually to fill all of that white in with black yarn. I did get some Indian takeaway. It was delicious, and I happened to go for a walk in the morning before it got way too hot. I failed to take B-roll during my shift at the library, but I did have a good work day. I also managed to go for a walk this morning. It has been so hot. It's so hot out. We're blaming the climate crisis. We are having issues with a heating planet. That's why we've had extreme winters and extreme summers, and I don't really see it changing, but I was determined to move my body. So I went for about a 2-mile walk around my neighborhood and throughout a park and everything, and it was really nice. And actually, the audiobook I was listening to, I will get to that in a second, but I wanted to provide an update for The Haunting of Tramcar 015 because I finished it. It was so good. I'm really excited that PJ Clark has a larger backlist canon that I can explore, because I've just, the tip of the iceberg with this title as well as with the Dead Cattail Assassins. Actually, the end of this book references another novella / short story within this universe. It's the one that follows Fatima, I believe, and some angels. I don't really know too much more, but I'm excited. I know that Hoopla has the audiobook, so if I wanted to, I could dive in that way. I wonder, because that book is quite short, I wonder if it even is accessible as a physical copy. Possibly it might be attached to like Master of Jinn or, a larger work within this universe. That is something for me to look into, especially because I feel as though this is a series I'm going to want to collect so I can reread it. The mystery of this haunted tram was really interesting, and I love that we just kept pace. We were moving quickly as we were uncovering information. The Sheikah, the eunuch, aka the robot that worked with her, remained kind of an interesting addition. And the backdrop of these women marching, protesting, trying to get the word out for women being allowed to vote added to the tension and the suspense, and it all tied together really well in the end. I thought it was great. I loved the suspense, and I loved that it came in quite a short package that I could enjoy during July Noir. Another event that I have pledged to join is 1 million Black books. This is a goal to read 1 million books by Black authors throughout this summer. It's hosted by Melanated Reader. I saw that Brie herself had joined, and then my friend Carly, she brought it up to me when she saw that I had posted another book on my Instagram story that I started yesterday while at work. That is James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. This is 2 letters. The first one is the one that I've just started, where he wrote to his nephew, and it was on the 100th anniversary of emancipation, and he's reflecting on how not enough has changed, that even though we are celebrating 100 years of emancipation, of the freedom of Black people, are they free? I mean, I can tell you in 2026, they're not equal. And there continues to be issues regarding race, equality. And yeah, the fight has not stopped. But I've loved a lot of sections in this, but the one that I shared in my Instagram story was him trying to encourage his nephew while also acknowledging the setbacks and the obstacles that are in his way. This, I also think, is quite poignant and thought-provoking, as the country of the United States has just celebrated, quote unquote, its 250th anniversary of independence. Because the other thing too is I've been thinking about this, and I know that it's obvious to everyone else, I'm sure, but as July 4th came and went, I was thinking, that's Independence Day, but here in the United States, it does not represent the time of independence for a majority of those who are living in this country. So it's just kind of a bit of a joke, in my opinion, to even have that be this really important holiday that everyone's supposed to celebrate, even those who are Black and brown bodies, people who are descended from immigrants whose parents, grandparents didn't have the same rights, weren't allowed to vote. And even as women, we weren't allowed to vote when they got independence. So were we equal? Nowhere near it. And I don't know. I've become quite pessimistic, but let me get to what I'm reading here. This innocent country set you down in a ghetto in which, in fact, it intended that you should perish. Let me spell out precisely what I mean by that, for the heart of the matter is here, and the root of my dispute with my country. You were born where you were born and faced the future that you faced because you were Black and for no other reason. The limits of your ambition were thus expected to be set forever. You were born into a society which spelled out with brutal clarity and in as many ways as possible that you were a worthless human being. You were not expected to aspire to excellence. You were expected to make peace with mediocrity. Wherever you have turned, James, in your short time on this earth, you have been told where you could go and what you could do and how you could do it and where you could live and whom you could marry. I know your countrymen do not agree with me about this, and I hear them saying you exaggerate. They do not know Harlem, and I do, so do you. Take no one's word for anything, including mine, but trust your experience. Know whence you came. If you know whence you came, there is really no limit to where you can go. He's doing such an impressive job of trying to encourage his nephew while also ensuring that he's aware of his reality, and pushing him for excellence, even as he knows that everyone is rooting against him. So it's been a very moving book. I am also so pleased that I had a conversation very briefly on Instagram with Brie. And when she saw that I was reading this, she said that it is her favorite by James Baldwin. And this is my first ever reading of anything by him. And I was really embarrassed, honestly, to tell Brie that, because I feel as though, especially as a white booktuber, I should be doing everything in my power to be aware of classics as well as new releases that are by people of color, because they already are at a disadvantage. Even the classics, right? Like, how often do you see people on this platform reading classics by non-white people? And the argument is, oh, there's not as many. It's not, we don't have access. We do have access. I borrowed this from my library. Check out your library, let them know that you want to read more diversely, that you are trying to make up for lost time, because that's honestly what I'm doing. And I'm really excited that I'm reading this weekend. And then finally, because my arm is so tired holding my phone, the audiobook that I was listening to while on my walk is Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. I have been dragging my feet, and I'm so glad that I finally caved and borrowed the audiobook from Libby, because this book has been on my currently reading stack since January, and this is how far I got on my own while reading with my eyes. And most of it I read in January, and I just really haven't been picking it up in the last couple months. I've been trying to figure out why that is. I mean, I haven't read any nonfiction this year besides Cast and the one I finished, which is Every Day I Read by Huang Bo-rum. That was quite a short nonfiction book with very short chapters, so maybe that is the remedy that I need. But I will not let myself put this book down, because it's been so informative, so thought-provoking, and heart-wrenching at times. And I applaud Isabel Wilkerson for wading through all of this historical information, all of these very dark revelations, and presenting it in a way that is digestible for all of us. When I first said that I was going to read this, there was a comment that said this book really should be required reading for everyone, and I cannot agree more. Even on my walk, when I was listening to the audiobook, and maybe that in itself too was one of my apprehensions about listening to it, was that auditorily, it's even more visceral as you're listening to these accounts, listening to Wilkerson provide us with the context, with the experiences of people like Miss, whose father named her Miss because there was a time when Black people in the United States, they were not allowed to be called Miss or Mr. As a way to also disrespect them and ensure that we continued to feel as though they were other, they were below white people. They didn't get those formal recognitions of respect. And so her father said, well, I'm going to name her Miss. So whenever they just try to demean her and call her by her first name, while she has to address them by Mr. So-and-so, he's requiring respect even if they don't want to provide it. And so just those types of anecdotes really were hard for me to read, because it just let me know where I am in society as far as the privilege that I've experienced. I've never had to deal with that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, as a woman, I have experienced things that have been difficult. I have, experienced discrimination, times when I felt unsafe, but it's completely different when we are discussing race and this young girl being a Black girl. She's already has so much against her. But as I was listening to her story, the stories of others, both at a global context and those at the individual level, and I was walking through my park, I was tearing up, because it's really tough to read, but I think that it's worth it in the end. And I'm not sure how much I'm going to get through this weekend, because I'm also determined to keep this a weekend vlog. But I am very happy that I got through a couple chapters today, and we'll see if I can get through a couple more before I wrap up this vlog tomorrow. The next bookstore that I am so excited to highlight is called The End. This is located in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it is such a darling space. I loved the curated shelves. There was a huge section dedicated to staff picks. There was also a huge section for local authors. You saw the Pride display. We also can see that there is this lovely wooden mascot, a bear named Ed, I'm told, and he is quite popular on social media. While I was there, though, I ended up meeting the owner of the bookstore herself, Kirsten, and I had such a wonderful conversation. She did not rush it. She was happy to talk about everything under the sun, especially her struggles as an independent bookstore owner who is trying to survive in 2026. While her shelves have all types of genres, all types of age categories, she does find it difficult to compete with stores like Amazon and larger chains like Barnes & Noble, and my heart just went out to her. I made sure to buy a couple books while I was there and tried to highlight this bookstore as much as possible because there really is something for everyone. So if you're ever in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and you want to support this store, I highly recommend you do so. Somehow, it is already Sunday afternoon, meaning that the weekend readathon is almost over, but I'm determined to finish this book before I wrap up the vlog. So if I have to update you on Monday, that's perfectly fine. But I do have about 40 pages left, so I feel confident I'll likely finish this by the end of tonight. But I'm not going to pull up the camera to tell you guys how I felt about it, even though no one should be surprised that I'm still finding it quite intriguing. I love that in this second letter, James is actually speaking to himself and reflecting on his childhood, his relationship to religion, to society, and how that made him develop into the man he is, his own understanding of his place in society in the United States, specifically as a Black man, and knowing that in a different country it would be completely different because they don't speak of race in that same way. And he's also addressing a lot of historical trends, a lot of trauma that Black people have experienced, but always making sure not to move too far away from his own experience. And I think that allows it to be a bit more accessible and continues to allow him to talk to himself directly. We are an observer. I'm not saying that we're acting as voyeurs, but we are silently watching and learning from him as he truly does speak to himself. And I love that his nephew is also named James. I'm wondering if his nephew was named after him, if his brother named his son after him. And because of that, he periodically addresses his nephew in the letter James specifically. And it feels as though Baldwin is also speaking to himself, maybe a younger self, wishing that he had known these, wise words, this advice when he was that age. And they really pair well because as soon as we finish with that letter to his nephew during the 100th anniversary of emancipation, he then immediately has a letter where he is starting with childhood and where he first started interacting with Christianity. Currently, where I am in the letter, he's speaking to Elijah Muhammad, who is a Black Muslim in Chicago, I believe. And we see James engaging with him and trying to understand his perspective, his understanding of race in America and how it differs from James. I really am pleased that I was able to participate in July Noir this weekend. While I did have to work and do other activities, I managed to almost finish 2 books. I'm gonna finish this one tonight. Granted, they're both quite short. One of them was a novella by P.J. Clark, and then we have James Baldwin's 2 letters. And actually, I don't think I've updated my laissez-faire streetcar graphic. So what I was thinking is that The Haunting of Tramcar 015 would fit for traveling, and then Black Classic gets fulfilled by The Fire Next Time. So I ended up getting 2 prompts done. I'm still working on cast, and actually in picking it back up, in discussing it, I ended up mentioning the title to my friend Carly, who introduced me to the 1 million Black books to be read over the summer, that challenge that is hosted by Melanated Reader. She said, hey, you should participate in this challenge. And then I mentioned, oh yeah, well, I'm already participating in July Noir. Another book I'm reading is Cast. And she just messaged me. I need to respond to her on Instagram saying, hey, so I just picked up the book and now I'm reading it and I'm really liking it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're having discourse. This is amazing. And so I'm really happy that I was able to connect with her. And I think that it's in the spirit of July Noir, of discussing these books, of reading them, but also kind of passing it forward and having others engage with these books as well. So I'm looking forward to talking about it with my friend Carly. I'm thinking that she'll probably catch up to me and then maybe we can finish the book together. That might help me in my motivation, my lack of motivation to pick up chonky nonfiction. And so, yeah, I'm over the moon. I'm very excited. So let me get back to finishing this book. And then, like I said, I'm likely going to update you tomorrow and then we'll probably wrap up the vlog. I did have some other books that were on my radar that I was playing around with the idea of reading for the laissez-faire streetcar, but a weekend is only so long. So what I'm thinking is, in my closing remarks, I'm going to highlight those titles and hopefully, once again, pass them forward. If they intrigue you, maybe you can add them to your TBR, even though I haven't read them yet. So I can't actually wholeheartedly recommend them. I think that they have great premises. And so I'm hoping that you will too, once I talk to you tomorrow. The final bookstore that I have the privilege of sharing with you today is Book and Puppet Company. This is located in Easton, Pennsylvania, and the only reason why it was even on my radar is thanks to Kirsten over at The End Bookstore. She told me if I was heading east, then I really needed to stop at this bookshop and tell the booksellers she said hi. They were over the moon to hear that she recommended them, and it was so lovely to see local bookstores supporting each other. And I think my biggest takeaway during this bookshop crawl, even though I only visited 3 different stores, each one very clearly has its own unique style, its own identity, and that is among the important reasons why we need to make sure we're protecting these spaces, that we're supporting local bookstores, because they do grow out of their community and they have a life of their own. While I was here, I also made sure to say hello to some favorite books. Entangled Life. Actually, they had a great nature section. You see that Robin Wall Kimmerer is being represented, and I do recommend Braiding Sweetgrass if you haven't read it yet. There was also a room dedicated to local art. The one that really moved me the most was the Statue of Liberty trying to melt ice. We have seen families torn apart, people have died, they will continue to die at the hands of ice. It was a comfort to see that Book and Puppet Co. were on the right side of history, and I was happy to support them by buying a book here. As promised, I did end up finishing The Fire Next Time a few days ago, actually, at this point. The weekend event has ended. Happy July Noir to everyone. And even though the weekend's done, you can still participate. By the way, no one is saying that you're not allowed to continue celebrating Black authors, Black stories throughout the month of July, and newsflash, throughout the entirety of the year, right? You don't have to just do this during February or during an event like July Noir, Blackoween. You can pick these books up on your own and you will find winners. You're going to find stories that are really thought-provoking, that either change your mindset or make you feel seen. And I feel as though James Baldwin has done all of the above in this very short nonfiction. For those who are leery of nonfiction, I do think this is a great place to start. Short nonfiction in general is a great place to start, and now I want to delve deeper into his canon. I really appreciated all of the sentiments, the mixture of feelings he had when he even felt as though sometimes he had to defend his own love, appreciation of white friends in his life. He does find himself interacting with Black activists who feel, not unlike white supremacists, that races should be separate. Obviously, their motivations are different. When it comes to the Black activists who feel as though we should be separated, they are protecting their people. They are learning from hundreds of years, thousands of years of oppression from various forms, because humans have always found a way to oppress people, it seems. There's never really been a place in history where that hasn't occurred. And you can understand, you can empathize with their choice to say, well, the heck with them. And James is in a weird position where he does have white people in his life that he leans on, that he enjoys getting dinner with. So where does that leave him when he fully agrees with with everything they've said when he can see what's happened in history. He can see what he's experienced in his life. And so it's a very interesting perspective within this narrative. And I'm really pleased that I happened to pick it up for July Noir. I entered this weekend not really knowing what my reading plans would be, but I couldn't be happier with the two books that I've chosen. And I say two, but I have picked up Cast again. I've read a few chapters this weekend, and it was the kind of the vigor, the motivation I needed to pick this back up. And so thank you so much, Bree. Thank you to her co-hosts. And I just wanted to quickly shout out the books that I didn't get to, but were on my radar and I thought about reading for the weekend, and I'm making a vow to you, to myself, that I will be getting to them sooner rather than later. One was a book by Attica Locke, Bluebird. I also had Blackwater Rising as an option simply because I read its sequel, Pleasantville. That one is an eco suspense, and I really appreciated how it leans into hard-boiled detective fiction surrounding a mayoral race and the deaths of these young Black women in their community. How are they linked? What's going on? And I just really appreciate the main character. I think his name is Jay Cooper. I could have that wrong, but he is a lawyer that is trying to raise up his community and protect them from the very powerful capitalist groups who are trying to exploit them. So I really want to read more by Locke simply because I love that book and I still think about it every single year. It comes up quite a few times in my videos because it really stayed with me. It really resonated. And then another one that is an ARC I received, and I'm so excited because it looks awesome. It's got this gorgeous cover. It is Crimson Inquietus. It's apparently a part of the Sautiverse, and I might be saying that wrong, so I will need to be sure to kind of correct myself if I am pronouncing it incorrectly. But this seems to be an investigation as well, but a biologist. She has been tasked with looking into the quiet area, a silent zone, because sound has power in this world. And then she finds herself being hunted by a serial killer as she's doing it. I'm probably butchering the synopsis, but it sounds so interesting. A sci-fi suspense. That is going to be a book I really want to get to, and it doesn't come out until September, so I have time to read it before it comes out, and then I can get a few people to maybe pre-order it if I get them excited enough. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. This has been a bit of a quasi vlog. Yes, I was participating in July Noir, so you got to see me reading books, but I also threw in old footage from a spontaneous bookshop crawl that I put upon myself as I was visiting a friend and she was having a wedding. And so I was like, well, might as well get some book shopping while I'm traveling and driving some, 6-7 hours. And I wanted to make sure that footage didn't go to waste. And they were beautiful independent bookstores. So if you're ever in their area, definitely check them out. And be sure to take care of yourselves. Make sure that you are reading diversely in any way, whether it be nonfiction, fiction, a good mix of both. Let me know the last Black author you read. The last story that followed Black protagonists by a Black author. I would love to see that in the comments. And if you're not feeling chatty, how about you provide me any type of tram car, train emojis in the comments in the honor of the haunting of tram car 015. How about a ghost emoji too? Why not? I love those. Thank you all so much. I do hope to see you guys in the next one. And be sure to check out Bree because she's amazing and she definitely needs a little extra love this month, this summer, this year. Okay, bye everybody.